Apple Card is good for your wallet. It's designed to support your financial well-being. It's a no-fee credit card that offers smart payment suggestions to help you pay off your balance faster. Plus, you can get daily cash back on every purchase every day. So you can stress less about money and focus more on enjoying life. Apply for Apple Card in the Wallet app on your iPhone today. Subject to credit approval, Apple Card issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch. Variable APRs for Apple Card range from 18.24% to 28.49% based on creditworthiness. Rates as of January 1st, 2025. Terms and more at applecard.com. No, guys, at my Pick and Pay, they know me as the kid who used to shoplift. Do you know what I mean? So at that Pick and Pay, when I walk past, they're like, "Where not?" Catch my dad. I hope this time you come again extra day this time. I saw Trevor Noah, even Trevor Noah. Even Trevor. Used to be a criminal. It's South Africa. All the time. I wonder if we could do something. We could probably do something. We gotta look at this. He admitted it. This is What Now with Trevor Noah. Every conversation, he leans in. Eugene, I'm telling you, bro, we need to make that show. He leans in. Come on, Gabe. He investigates all the claims. What you mean? He leans in. Eugene Kwaza is no contradictive. How much? How many? Do we need to report this man? I'm also saying that Eugene only asks questions of 2 words. How much? Yeah, that's a G. How many? That's a G. When last? That's when you get it. That's when you get it. Dan, welcome to the podcast. I apologize if you met me on a day that I'm with you, because it means anything can happen here. Sure. But I think that's the perfect setting for a conversation about genocide. About not just genocide, guys, but a white genocide.
The white one.
A white genocide.
The West genocide.
Which, as we know, is the West genocide. You know of which? How many of you committed this week? Me. Apparently, there's a lot of them. So personally, I always start my week with a genocide of all South Africans. This is what we do. You know, my father always used to tell me, Trevor, not do genocide. So you're Swiss, right? You know, Dan, don't spoil the jokes. Why are you spoiling the jokes, Dan? Now I have to reveal to everyone that my father was a white man who lived in South Africa and loved it. Damn it, Dan! You're spoiling the narrative, Dan!
I thought this was in like an interesting
No,
narrative.
Dan!
The Swiss white man is also
No,
committed
Dan!
white genocide.
This guy, you're revealing my backstory, Dan.
Oh, no one read the book?
No one.
Everyone read the book.
But okay, so this you know what, this is what I found particularly strange about this conversation. A lot of the time I'll have a conversation with people and we're trying to like figure something out moving forward. I feel like for this conversation, we're trying to figure something out backwards, right? Because I'll just put people on the timeline. So I know a lot of people in America, a lot of people in the UK, etc., are going, what is happening in South Africa? A lot of people are like, we heard there's a genocide. We heard that white people are being mass slaughtered. So then the whole world woke up. So you guys live in South Africa. I was in New York. Then I saw the story start bubbling. So obviously I follow South African news. But you know there's stories where it's like, guys, they don't come. Like ESCOM doesn't come. The story doesn't actually come to America. This story started overlapping. And slowly you started to realize that it became part of the news, like international news. Okay? Then it was interesting. International journalists stepped in and said, we want to get to the bottom of what's happening, because how could a genocide be happening under our noses and we don't know about it, right? So the BBC, CNN, you name it. Yeah, I was even getting requests, people emailing me, hi Trevor, we heard there's a genocide. No one asked if I said, because they're like, you know where you live.
It would be incredibly fun if Facebook asked you to check in as a white person each day on whether you were still doing. That would be very good.
But what was interesting was, as quickly as it blew up internationally, it dropped off. I saw conversations everywhere. One of them was obviously you went on Piers Morgan.
I went in my house.
You were in your house.
Yes.
And I don't know, maybe we start with this. Were you shocked, Dan, when you go on Piers Morgan and you're coming there to talk about the fact that there is no genocide? There's a whole panel of other people, you know, who are like half of them are there to say there is a genocide, and then they go there is no genocide. So maybe that's where I want to start. Like, how is it that there's a conversation that's going all over the world about a thing that isn't actually happening? And I don't mean like isn't happening like some people feel it is, some people isn't. No, it isn't actually happening. So how did this start?
Yeah, so I think that over the last 10 years, a raft of genuinely very talented grifters in South Africa have snake oil salesmen this idea without saying it themselves on the last step. So someone like Ernst Witz is very clever. He will twist data and decontextualize facts to make it look like something particularly bad is happening. And then he will go on Jordan Peterson and Tucker Carlson, and he'll never say there's a white genocide. He'll stop just before, and then let people fill in where he's directing it to. Similarly, most of this truck has taken place on the dark case formerly known as Twitter, like aided and abetted by Elon Musk. And on Twitter, these big established public voices who need to have a degree of tetherness to reality stop just short of saying this is the worst thing ever, like with these race wars. They stop just short of saying there are more race wars than apartheid, there are more worse than apartheid. But then they let the anonymous bot troll campaigns on Twitter, which are sometimes just useful idiots, but sometimes paid for campaigners, jump to the last level. So there was this ex-account called Potter Boss, there still is, and Elon Musk reposted a lot of this stuff. Potter Boss was just lying about a bunch of things. But what happened was the public figures did the groundwork to allow the lunatics to then lie on top of what they were saying. And then it ended up being Musk repeating and sharing these kinds of nonsense ideas all the way into the White House. And then when Trump went executive order time, that's when it became around the world.
Yeah, that's when it became.
Because frankly, I just feel like Trump and his right wing love a white victim. All of their immigration stuff in America is about being terrified of the brown person, be terrified of the non-English speaking. They love a white victim. But it's hard to find white victims, guys. The history of the world makes it pretty hard to find white victims. But if somebody could come along and concoct the downtrodden, tragic, in-danger white person, beleaguered in South Africa, and we can save them, then that ticks all of the boxes for that kind of campaign. And I don't know if you noticed, but it seemed like every single time for about 2 months Trump had a bad day, he then tweeted about South Africa. We were the punching bag to change the narrative, to distract away, to misdirect from the other stuff that was going on in his life that would look dangerous. So I think that we were useful for that. The way that's like our diplomats, Ibrahim Rasool, and then Special Envoy Lucy Jonas, suddenly got covered by Breitbart News and Fox News. They were turned into these dangers because it was very useful to fit the kind of nagging narrative.
Well, what happened 10 years ago? What am I missing? I get that we're saying something started, but why did it start? I'm still intrigued by the why of it all. Do you know what I mean? Like, what is the purpose of starting a campaign to say there's a genocide where there is none? Do you know when was the first time you heard about it?
None of the States when we had
No, I'm being serious. When
none.
was the first time you heard about like white genocide in South
It
Africa?
was this year. It was when everyone got onto it. I almost felt like I was part of living in another country because I looked outside and I was like,
That's
where is
crazy.
this thing happening? And I checked on my neighbor, she was fine. But she hasn't been fine for a long time. Many times. 4 cats, 1 baby. I was like, what? If it were to happen, it would start at number 43. But it wasn't happening. But I get what Dan is saying. I think there's a lot of victimhood that's going on. And a lot of what people don't speak about in South Africa is the minority that oppressed the majority is still playing victim 30 years later. Rather surprising thing. And I was saying to you the other time, it's like the genius of this whole concocted plan was for the former oppressor, he still oppresses some other people, to get an apology and a guarantee of nothing will happen to you. Where they've never apologized. They showed me how organized they were as an African community group. They have universities, they have unions, they have legal aid, they have everything. They speak collectively, but they've never said collectively. Even after when apartheid was declared a kind of humanity, we are sorry, for what our culture and our nation has contributed to the people of this country. But they could organize themselves as equal.
Can I tell you what I find interesting is I'll do shows like in random places, right? Some more random than others. But let's say if I'm in Australia somewhere where a lot of South Africans will come. A broad range of South Africans. But I have yet to meet a South African who left South Africa during apartheid or maybe even afterwards, who says they supported it.
Yes, that's what I was about
Guys,
to
I
say.
have yet, let me tell you, and I don't even mean this in like, I just go, this was a system that was well run, it was supported, I mean,
Who voted for this?
I'm just like,
Where are they?
yo,
Like, where are all the people who had to vote? I can't find a guy.
I can't find 20 of them. even the people you're talking about who are now leading these like pro-Africana, and like extreme, because I mean, we've got to be careful, like, you can be pro-Africana, but not be like a heavy nationalist, and so, this split thing, But even the groups that are running far right, meaning, if you say to them, do you support apartheid? Then they go, I never. That was a terrible, terrible time. And I never, so even then, I didn't. I had a picture of Mandela on my wall.
What the Ravone trial picture? He was in jail for 27
I'm just like,
grainy old picture of the one that you get at Robben Island in the street in the quarry.
and they're like, I would have voted for you 3 times. I would have. Mandela was a great man. So this is the thing that gets me, and maybe that's what we need to spend our time digging into. It's going to be fun. It's like the African accent. No, it is a great accent actually. 100%. But it's like, you know, Dan, when you talk about like white victimhood, it's been interesting seeing how this story stitches across the Atlantic Ocean, stitches across, you know, like across the top of the African continent. Everywhere in the world, people have a story of being, you know, subjugated, oppressed, something. It's the story as old as time, right? But some of them are like straight up just pillaging, as my friend like to say. Big fan of pillaging. No, there was a lot of pillaging. But then there's a few instances where people were actually like oppressed because of who they were. Systematically oppressed, right? It's interesting how the label of victimhood, or like the cult of victimhood, gets to be worn most proudly by the people who are generally the perpetrators in these stories. So here's something I found interesting. We like to think of Trump as being an outlier, because Donald Trump is the one who rescued, you know, who is 49 for now.
It was actually 59. I don't know why they didn't count it properly.
It was 59, right?
It was 59.
Yeah, I always thought it was 59, then people started saying 49 at the airport. Maybe 10 changed their mind. I don't know. But okay, the 49 or the 59 who were rescued, quote unquote, the other refugees. A lot of people in America were saying to me like, oh my God, Trevor, it must be so strange for you seeing, I mean, like Donald Trump. I was like, it's not that strange, considering that Bill Clinton's administration gave thousands of visas to white South Africans only just before we had our first elections. Just think about it for a second. Just think about it for a second. South Africa had just become a democracy. The world stage had agreed that apartheid was a crime against humanity. The whole world had done this. Just before the election, Bill Clinton's administration, not Donald Trump, Bill Clinton's administration rescued 2,000 white South Africans because they were like, hey man, we know that you were the bad guys, but we've got to help you escape from this situation.
That's not about to be different blood in the bloodbath.
But you see what I'm saying? Like I'm just
Bloodbath had already happened. It's not like there might be white blood in the bloodbath.
Yes, but there's never been. Okay, maybe I'm wrong, but there's never been. Dan, I don't want to put you on the spot. As a white. As a white, don't worry. It's part of my training. Every morning I recite the names of every white person who has ever died in South Africa. So you can ask me about any white dead. So let me ask you this. Like, maybe there's something I don't know about. Like, when you are hanging out with white people alone, like, because you live in Cape Town, we spend a lot of time in it. Very white there, right? Not good or bad, just very white. When you're hanging out with like a group, like, when white people are alone in South Africa, do they think genuinely that they are being targeted? Like, honest question.
I think that
For being white.
Yes, I think many white people do. I will say that all my friends know my politics. So they're on, like all of my friends are pretty much my politics. So in my friendship circles, no one is saying, oh, it's so hard, it's so horrible, it's so terrible. But I know because I've run WhatsApp lines when I was on 5FM, which is a historically white radio station. So I had a breakfast show host there, my TV show, the quarter reports, and everything, that a lot of people do feel that way, but it's some kind of fear of the destabilization of their privilege. Because the fear is, as more and more black people become middle class, more and more black people become, get to the same level of wealth, and then white people think, okay, but what if I one day can't get a job, one day BEE does this, whatever, and I wanted to circle back on this actually to your question of what happened 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I think that what happened was, South Africa had the 2010 World Cup, we waka-waka our way into our peak,
Yes.
Jacob Zuma came to power,
Yeah.
and finally there was a black president who was all the bad things that white people thought black people were about.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's what happened. The state capture stuff, the Zuma corruption stuff, suddenly the Rainbow Nation was popped. Nobody says that anymore. Nobody says Rainbow Nation anymore. That beautiful brand thing, the Desmond Tutu, the Mandela, the
Yeah.
And then 2010 happened, K9's Wave Your Flag was much better than Shakira's Waka Waka. We all know this to be true. But those two songs happened, the World Cup was incredible, we did the Dream Rainbow Nation thing, and then service delivery started to collapse. Random corruption started to happen. The police started to fall apart. The whole started to go, things are not going very well, but the many white South Africans had the dangerous black president they terrified of since the beginning. And that opened a space.
That's interesting.
It opened a space for white grifters to then go, we're in trouble now, they're coming for us, they're persecuting us, white economic empowerment, the Pottinger, all of this was
Give
fodder
back our
for
land.
white grifters to say, they're coming for us, we told you, we know the blacks were nice before this, we couldn't show that Thabo Mbeki was bad, or Mandela was bad, or Zuma was bad, but now things are objectively getting worse for lots of South Africans. Here's the black boogeyman we were telling you was coming. And then Malema came along, and more black boogeyman stuff, the terrifying black boogeyman, and from there it all devolved to where we are now.
It's interesting you say that because you and I laugh about this a lot. But there's a thing that happens with people, and I mean everyone can be guilty of this, by the way. I think any group, but you know where, let's say as black people, you're hanging out together, and you'll say something about a black person, let's say who's in power. So you know, you're like, Jacob Zuma, this guy. And then you'll find someone will step into that fray, and they'll say something where you're like, wait, we didn't mean it like that.
Yeah. I know it's bad, but
Yes. No, but you know what I mean? But they'll say something, you know, you'll be like, so much corruption, but then they'll be like, yeah, but I mean, what do you expect? They like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, who's they? Well,
So are you saying a black person?
yeah, no, what I'm saying,
Black company.
what I'm saying is, Chief, what you've revealed, which is really interesting, is black people have the ability to separate an action that is black culturally and the person that is black that is just doing something. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What I've noticed in a lot of these conversations is there are synonyms that are used for actions. So even when people are talking to Donald Trump in the White House, even when people are on the news or talking to Piers Morgan, even when they're going like, look, there might not be a genocide, but the crime. Crime has become a synonym for black.
Just like the community.
Same as corruption. Yes, corruption is also a synonym for black.
The community. The townships.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
it's all wink nudge.
It's another way to say black.
Exactly. It's like the way that Black Lives Matter evolved into DEI, which
Yeah.
they now are so obsessed with. It's called
The black.
and it's usually called the K-word.
Yeah.
Like, but it is though.
You know them.
Can I just say, as a preference,
You know them.
The sequel.
yes,
Exactly.
but I will say, just as a preference thing to anyone who's listening, I would prefer to call me the crime than the N-word. If you meet me in the street and you say like, look at the crime walking across the street, I'll be less offended.
and the Lord regime will probably be so boring.
I'm just saying. What up, my crime word? Already sounds better. Already sounds better.
You know
And now it sounds like you're asking for trouble. Crime, please.
these crimes.
You know, growing up, we always used to have this thing when people come to visit our house, we would wait for the moment when they leave, and then we would all gossip about them.
Yeah.
As soon as they call, our mom would call, look, we have our house back again. South Africans have never had their house back.
Yeah.
We've never stepped as black people and said, guys, man, let's gossip about them. Yeah.
Let's go.
We had to make nice very quickly. If I had thumbs, I would snap.
What?
We had to make nice very, very quickly. As soon as that ended,
You have to be nice to the school governing body for your child to enter a school. You have to be nice to show that you're not like that kind of a crime in an estate, in a housing community, we have to be nice. So the ones that could played nice to be in those communities. The ones that couldn't afford played nice to work in those communities. We never had time to gossip as a family. So when it happened with Jacob Zuma, when we all said, hey, but that guy,
Exactly.
and then other people heard us and said, that guy where? They was like, no, it's not our guy.
Yeah.
It's just a guy who's doing wrong. Right. And then the whole conversation got lost and muddy.
Yes.
And let's not also forget, if people were 15 when this conversation started in 2010, they were now 20.
Yeah.
Joining the fray. And they had no idea about, because when you try to remind kids about apartheid, you're wasting their time. But if you say, now you know 15-year-olds struggle to tell the difference between Jacob Zuma and Nelson Mandela? Nelson Mandela is a guy on a note. Jacob Zuma is real.
And then there are so many people who I talk to. One of the things that disturbs me the most in my work is how many people under the age of 25 don't know what the TRC was.
Yes.
So like if I was king for a day, number one, every South African listener shoots in the trick. Number two, we overhaul the matric syllabus. Because there's too much Cold War in there, there's too much, why do we do this?
Vietnam War now. Don't saying about the Vietnam War.
It's a fuck about the Cuban Missile Crisis. Who cares? It almost happened. But it didn't. It almost happened.
Dan, it almost happened.
Of course, niggas am I.
You know how close they were, Dan?
Some of these put guys walks in the syllabus because it almost happened.
It almost happened, Dan.
It almost happened. Yes. But like my fundamental point is that even like I think a lot about how we only know the headlines of apartheid, settler colonialism,
Yes.
and before. But even now, younger generations don't know that stuff.
Yeah.
And in a country which is so systemically defined, even today, by all of that, people who don't know that stuff have an inability to truly appreciate the dynamics that exist within our country. And the only way to help people to understand is to say, hey, we did this deal at the end of apartheid because we wanted to find out what was going on. The apartheid government was burning tens of thousands of pieces of paper, the records of their evils. Some people made a choice that we would offer amnesty in exchange for finding out what already happened, trying to get some kind of closure. Some people disagreed on that, like Pico's family, for example. Because right now, an inquiry has been opened up into why the MPA didn't pursue court cases against some people from apartheid who did not get amnesty. They were supposed to be pursued.
Right, so let's just take a step back. So for those who don't know, let's just break this down for them. Because you're right, a lot of people don't know. A lot of people will be listening to this, or watching this and going, wait, what happened?
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of the world thinks of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission as the gold standard in terms of a peaceful transfer of power.
Yes.
It is considered the gold standard of the bloodless revolution.
Yes.
Right? So nowhere in the world, and this is true, nowhere in the world has there been a revolution where a minority who oppressed the majority gave up power, but then didn't see mass bloodshed. This is just, it's
No
hasn't-
retribution.
Yeah, yes, right? And everyone looks at TRC as the gold standard. They go, wow, what an amazing experience. A country that experienced so much trauma and so much pain came together and said, we're going to speak about this, we're going to air it on television, the whole country is going to be privy to it, and regardless of how heinous these crimes are, we're going to speak about them. And the key aspect of it is, those who come forward to admit what they did, revealed from the shadows, they will be given amnesty.
And that's if the evidence is proven to be true.
Yes.
They point up to the grave.
And if it is sincere.
Sincere.
Sincere
and
Charles,
true.
yes, but Tutu was very human about it. He was like, we want to feel like this is genuine remorse. Right. Because like functionally we want remorse for people, but we also, for the victims, you have to see remorse as a victim, or you're not gonna feel closure or feel like this person is really sorry.
Right.
Van in that truck. There was a
They're going to bring it up.
Your example is actually really good because something that I think about is that white South Africans who never earned black South Africans is trust.
No.
That is another part of the post-apartheid conversation. An apology is not enough.
And
But
what
I think
people
we're
say Mbeki.
yeah.
Actually, guys, that shit used to blow my mind.
You have to work harder.
The president of the country is Thabo Mbeki.
No tricks.
No, nothing. Nothing. Do you know what I mean? Not no much concern. No. Mbeki. People without fail would go, yeah, President Mabeki. He's like Mbeki. Mabeki. Then you're like, Mbeki. They'd be like, I can't say it.
course you can.
Then I go, but let some tennis player come along who's at Wimbledon
From Eastern Europe.
and they'll have a name that, all consonants, no vowels. I've never seen these people struggle. You know, you're like, so you can say that name, but Mbeki, why can't you say, can you say can you say Be? But it always felt like to me, it wasn't so much that they couldn't say it,
Wouldn't bother.
it felt like it was like, no, it's not even wouldn't bother. It felt like
It was a
they-
silent revolution, it was a silent protest.
it felt like they were giving something up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make your sounds.
Yeah.
And that's why genuinely, like when I look at my brother's generation, my brother's 20 years younger than me, my youngest brother, right? The kids that he goes to school with, they don't bat an eyelid at any of this. Mbeki, nothing to them. Genuinely nothing. Genuinely nothing. When I look at like young white kids growing up now, I can't speak for all of them, but I know from my generation already, like when we went to school versus the kids now, bro, these kids, so many of them don't see it as an inferior thing. Because they've seen rich black, they've seen poor black, they've seen corrupt black, they've seen this, you know what I mean? Like
They've also had famous black people in their lives. I never thought of it, which is a really, really big deal. It's like really, really important to understand the extent to which celebrity agenda sets what we should bother to learn, do, and care about. And like the fact that young white South Africans know Mapimpi and they know and Oxenshare